let's talk about ROI in AI. And really what we're going to do today is first talk about why building some rigor and discipline around return on investment on your AI use cases is so important. And we're really advocating now to push that conversation as early in your project lifecycle as you possibly can. So we'll talk some more about that as I remember that I have a clicker here. And then the kind of the lab that we're going to use to really exercise this concept of ROI in AI is going to be doing a compare of the Databricks platform versus a best of breed kind of point solution. And you'll hear me say a couple more times today that Databricks is not the only integrated platform out there. We all know there are other ones out there, but it's more about exercising our heads around understanding the gives and takes associated with really maximizing the investment and the business impact through your technology decisions and how you decide to go about things. So what I'd like to do is start the conversation from a high level in terms of understanding what is really top of mind for CEOs and really what are they looking for now coming out of the glory days of 2023 where we got to do all these fun POCs and everything to learn about this new thing called Gen AI. The first thing is wanting to know the expected ROI for any kind of investment in the corporation, just not IT, ahead of time. And a lot of this is about conserving capital, higher borrowing costs, but really becoming more diligent overall, which really plays into this a lot. There is definitely a sense that organizations' business models, existing business models, may have a limited shelf life now. And what is that next business model? And is there exponential kind of thinking about how AI could really transform the organization before the organization is made to transform based upon a competitor or other changes in the environment? Organizational readiness, and underneath this is about getting the right alignment. I know many organizations right now are having the conversations around, do we have an AI COE and a Gen AI COE? Who owns the stack? Who owns enablement? Who owns the governance? Who owns responsible AI? I've had more than one CIO say to me, whenever I go to press the production button, compliance says no. Or product development is saying, I'm being slowed down on getting new product out to market because now I have 3 different departments looking over my shoulder to make sure that we're not going to shoot ourselves in the foot. So that whole organizational aspect and the corresponding risk management are a lot of the things that are now informing how organizations are basically drawing the boundaries. See, like even more people are here now. I'm going to be more anxious. Okay, around really basically the playing field in which we're playing is basically what this is meant to share with you. So we've learned that we call it getting stuck when POCs get stuck. And we've identified 3 areas of why POCs never make it to production. One is around, like I mentioned, the lack of executive alignment. The second one is insufficient guardrails, both the principles of responsible AI as well as the practice in terms of integrating responsible AI into your systems, right? And then the third one that we're going to spend our time together talking about today is really about an unclear ROI. And I for one, was absolutely guilty of this last year. We do a workshop together. We come up with some great use cases. We do some demos. Everyone is excited, and we pick up our bag and we walk out of your conference room. And we basically left you to figure out the business case yourself. Like, okay, sooner or later, someone's going to have to pay for this. Sooner or later, someone's going to ask, what is the actual business impact of this whole thing? The wonderful, senior executive question, so what? Right? So what? Copilot helps me be more productive in writing an email. It's arguable in my case, but anyway, right? So the big so what question. And so we're going to get really rigorous now about how we're going to think about this idea of ROI. And we're going to think about it across every stage of the development process. So when we're doing the ideation and we're building all these use cases and we're thinking about what's the business problem, who's the audience, how do we want to measure it, what data do we need, all those things we're now going to start really think about, at least directionally. Is this a revenue driver? Is this a cost reduction? Is this a cost avoidance play? And then when we go to do the POCs, we're now going to start really refining our thinking. Maybe this might be a little bit more expensive than we thought it was going to be to actually develop this. Maybe the adoption is going to be a bigger hurdle because we're already having problems getting users coming to our development demos and things like that. You start to get some early signs. So we're going to really pay attention during that POC to refine the business case. And then when we're in that MVP stage, this is, in my mind, the market validation. Are we getting the subscriber lift? Are we seeing in the pilot that we're reducing the attrition in our customer cancellations? Are people really saving time instead of searching the enterprise for all these different documents? Are they actually saving measurable time that they would be willing to say? And then ultimately, once we launch and we're in production, we have a really strong feedback loop to ensure that we're learning from that ROI analysis going back through to the next ideation session. So, AI value calculator. So what we heard was essentially clients were doing no ROI analysis, or they had this huge system that would take you 15, 20, 30 minutes to fill out all the fields, which no one ever filled out all the fields on, and then it got submitted to some place, and then you heard later on that your project was approved or not. Or there are spreadsheets that frankly appear to have been developed like 5 minutes before they came into the meeting with us and say, see, show you, we told you we had our own ROI tool. So it's kind of like some mix of there. But what we wanted to do was really equip our clients with a tool to allow them to really do a handful of things. First, we're going to take a look at the TCO analysis. So we're going to look at the 3 value drivers, and I'll go into more detail. Again, revenue increase, cost takeout, or cost avoidance. Then we're going to look at the implementation costs associated with everything from data acquisition, platform implementation, all the way down. We'll go through that in some detail. And then we're going to take a look at the recurring cost as well. And it's in this module where not only do you see the platform subscription fees, but you can also swap in and out different LLMs to see the cost impact. And it's in that dialogue that I'll come back to again, which is really about, for this particular use case or group of use cases, does it make more sense to string up an API to a black box LLM? Because that's all we really need. So my implementation costs are going to be lower, but I also know over the next 3 years, my subscription costs are going to be higher. Or is it better for us to actually, download Llama 2, run it on our own instances, we'll do the customization, our implementation costs might be higher and longer, but our reoccurring costs over the next 3 years will be much lower. And it's having a forum to have that dialogue, to really think about this AI use case in a molecular way, as in terms of how is it really going to accrue value. And that's where the comparisons come in, where we'll allow you to actually compare multiple use cases based upon break even, level of effort, ROI percent, in a similar. So in culmination, these are some of the common questions that our clients are looking at. And many times I'd say the room breaks down into, actually, I'll ask the question instead of stating it. Let me ask the question. How many people in this room right now are currently grappling with use case prioritization? Oh, okay, that's a bit larger group than I thought. Great, glad I asked the question. So there's usually about, I'd say 20% of the group is actually already, elbows deep, working through all these use cases. They have dozens, some organizations have hundreds of use cases now that they've gotten from all the different departments, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to sort through it. Others tend to be looking at this like a deer in the headlights. Like, oh, geez, first we have to find these use cases, and then we're going to have to do this. So it's a little bit a mix of the two. Okay, so I have to do this slide because this is like the scary slide, right, of all the vendors that are out there, right? So this is kind of teeing up all the point solutions that you can choose from. And again, there is plenty of business value to be derived from a best-in-class, quote-unquote, point solution, assembling these all together. It comes with a tax and time and cost that we'll go through, but it's absolutely possible. Many of our dear partners are on this slide, to be clear. Okay, so let's now talk about Databricks in particular, in terms of why we're kind of bullish on bricks in particular. And if I use this line bricks sometimes, so excuse me, I'm referring to Databricks. So first of all, it's this idea that the platform provides us within one setting really broad and advanced capabilities, right? You have a warehouse, you have a governed warehouse with a medallion architecture. You have a Unity catalog, or sometimes known as UC. You have a breadth of ML capabilities and ML workflow and automation part of it. The implementation is fairly quick, right? If you're on Amazon Marketplace, it's not hard to instantiate the platform automatically. There's certainly less time spent maintaining the platform because it's already integrated. Maybe there's more time that you're going to be able to spend integrating with other systems like Salesforce or SAP, for example. And ultimately, what you're going to hear repeatedly is this idea that time is now is accruing to your development velocity. That now your developers, in terms of building these use cases, are really going to provide more value, because there's going to be more sophisticated use cases in our experience, and more of them that really drives the difference in the ROI between a point solution aspect to it. So this is mapping into like how the calculator is actually structured, right? So this idea that we're using commodity storage, so it's just S3 buckets or ADLS, like super accessible, easy to turn on. We have automated data ingestion, and with the announcement last week, even more robust, ability to read data into the platform with Tabular. Centralized data management. Databricks has really become our go-to for when we need to build robust data governance processes. So when we have to think about how do you certify a data set and all the things that come with it, who's the data owner, what's the bar for certified, who decides what a critical data element is, all those things we love to use Databricks as that platform for building out those capabilities. We've used Databricks a lot from an integration perspective. So sometimes I refer to Databricks as essentially like a kidney dialysis machine. So you can bring, a bunch of dupe data from your CRM. You can use Databricks and not necessarily an MDM to do that dedupe. You can use machine learning to do that dedupe on a real-time or near real-time basis and push that certified data set back to the CRM or to other downstream systems. And this idea of lower upfront training costs, you may scratch your head a little bit around that. But most of the development languages in Databricks, in particular like Python, they're all widely accessible. But more importantly, it's this idea that you are concentrating your team's skill sets in a single platform. So this idea of compounding returns will come up again, or sometimes referred to as leverage. So that one engineer is able to play multiple parts within the platform without kind of spreading them across 5 different products that they have to kind of be a jack of all trades but a master of none. And this idea around lower recurring costs. So I spotted some Databricks account people in here, so plug your ears for a month. But overall, what we have found is that Databricks is extremely cost efficient, not because of the kind of pricing, but it utilizes your cloud resources so efficiently. And the fact that you're able to use the same instance of compute or Spark in multiple different ways, if it's ETL, if it's training, if it's query, and you don't need to worry about setting up a whole bunch of different compute that you may or may not need for different products, or shipping data outside of your organization. And again, concentrating your buying power with one vendor, that may be great. Your procurement may love doing that. They may like to have multiple options to go to the table with, but it's definitely another point of driving more cost efficiency. And then finally, this idea, again, you're managing a single platform and not multiple platforms really help to simplify things. So now, when we take a look at the calculator, what we're looking at here, right, we have our platform licensing fees, the monitoring, the ongoing model training, right, the refresh, if it's weekly or nightly, however you're doing your training, data storage, the support, training and adoption, your outside help, and your model inference costs. And it's under that model inference cost where within the calculator, you can select different LLMs and you can see, do I do provision throughput? Do I do on demand? What should be my context window size that I'm going to use, number of tokens, all that? How many hours a day do I think the LLM is going to be running? And you can actually do your own calculation if that's if that's going to be your main concern around the ongoing costs. All right, so let's now go into an example. So this example is based on a digital agency that's focused on building advertising strategies and execution for the life sciences industry. And when this project came to be, there was already a best of breed type mindset starting to pervade the organization. It wasn't totally in place yet, but it was well on its way. And when the engagement started, it was clear that a different direction was going to need to be taken. But we were going to have to substantiate why that change in direction should actually occur, and that's what this narrative really focuses on. So to get started, what we found is this idea that Databricks becomes kind of like your Goldilocks solution. And what I mean by that is It really brings this great combination of customizability, its commitment to open source to help keep the cost down, as well as productionalizing, packaging things that really just not a lot of differentiation. So it's really, really simplifying that a lot. And then you have some more of the advanced capabilities. We talked about the one platform to learn, and you can scale with that single platform. So you can start really small and then scale up to something much, much larger. And then finally, based upon all the advanced capabilities, particularly in the AI realm, it is an extremely cost-effective option. Compared to this idea that, there are very specific specialized services, products and services in ETL for query, for machine learning, for data warehouses out there. So though they all exist and they all do a great job, but again, which we'll see is going to come with a tax when you're looking to stitch all these things together. So the three main things from a technical perspective that we really wanted to get through is, how do we build a scalable data warehouse? How do we do BI reporting, kind of descriptive historical reporting, as well as more advanced analytics, including machine learning? So let's talk about this summary here a little bit after I take a sip. The main things that we found when we modeled out the ROI is on the revenue line really tells the story. So this idea that we were able to deliver more projects and more sophisticated projects within that payback period, and certainly across a three-year, than we were currently seeing from a trajectory perspective with the best of breed type approach. Would anyone like to offer an explanation around this total cost of ownership, like 1.3 million versus call it 900K? Doesn't seem that compelling on the face of it, but what's actually really going on there? Would anyone like to offer up a suggestion? What's that? Yeah. So what's going on there is because the consumption and the utilization of the platform is higher because we were delivering so many more use cases, naturally it was going to have an elevated TCO, both from a compute and a DBU perspective, as well as just from a human perspective. That's why that line is a little bit higher. But again, as you can see on the right-hand side, you still can be successful with a point solution perspective. There's nothing wrong with it, but you can still really make a lot of progress with point solutions. But again, I think it's kind of clear. So what are some of the key things that we witnessed going through this process? The first thing is, when you go with a point solution type best of breed aspect, you're most likely going to go through some kind of bake-off. Maybe your procurement is going to force you to put everything out to RFP for each one of those. So that takes time. And then you have to negotiate the contracts, and then you have some kind of security tests. That's all part of the process, right? And then you're going to have to get into the old 80-20 rule, which a lot of these tools, I think we all have experienced. They do a great job with 80% of your needs, but then there's the 20% that you wind up kind of conforming to the tool and the tool not conforming to you. And the other thing is that the training that your people need to now learn all these different tools in their own context, and they need to learn how these tools speak to each other, and they need to understand what are the deltas in terms of, for example, do they use the same file formats? Can they share the same file formats, or do we actually have to transform a file format into another one just so it can be ingested by the other tools? From a Databricks perspective, as I allude to, earlier is this idea that we just have a higher velocity. So our sprints, all the way down to the user story, as well as to our velocity in the sprint, to the size or magnitude of the demos at the end of each sprint, you see a noticeable difference. There's just more being developed and being delivered within that same 2-week period, if you will. Again, using commodity resources whenever possible and letting Databricks do the heavy lifting is a huge part of this as well. And then this idea of being able to use the more sophisticated machine learning and Gen AI capabilities within the same platform without having to go outside to another platform with an integrated data flow and workflow really drove the day for us in terms of what's really behind this ROI analysis. So with that, this is our walkthrough. I really appreciate all your time and attention. Thank you.